So we are having with us our distinguished guest, Dr. K.P. Kailasanath Pillai. He is a senior advocate of Supreme Court of India, having practiced for more than 35 years, and he is a director of National Thermal Power NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation, and he is the chairman of this CG3 institution, an NGO in Kerala, which is doing a lot of seminars and so much of activity in regard to the academic as well as professional line. Is a speaker in various institutions, various national law schools and various institutions all over India, and he is also a distinguished professor from New Orleans National Law School of Kerala, and he is still holding a lot of activity in academics because he himself is a doctorate from MG University. And with this background, I invite him to have a talk on the aspect of law, how fascinating the law is. It's a general topic which he will be rendering for creating the interest in the students. And I already mentioned that in Sabas is an orientation. We will be giving the basic idea of the law on our students. So I invite Dr. K.P. Kailasanath Pillai for the lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, and good morning to all. I hope my sound and video are absolutely correct.
Yes, okay.
I have to thank Dr. Manisab and other faculty of Hindustan Institute of Technologies, Chennai, for giving me an opportunity to address you today on a subject to which sky is the limit. Many of you are freshers, I know. Some of you might have had a few semesters, and if my understanding is correct, you are led by a team of illustrious, resourceful faculty, and you have an institution which can boast of giving quality education, not only in law but other core subjects also. So, when Dr. Manisab discussed with me about this lecture program, we were initially trying to identify some topic in law. Then he suggested to me, why don't we have a general topic? When we reach the consensus and we have the topic today, how to get fascinated by law and legal profession. See, fascination is a romantic word. You get fascinated when you see a flower, a garden, a scenery, a painting, a thing of beauty. Fascination comes from a thing of beauty. That is why John Keats, English poet, said that a thing of beauty is a joy forever. It is immortal, eternal, perpetual, never ending. So this fascination, how to get fascinated by law and legal profession, that subject puts us in a positive mood, bend of mind, positivism. you should be optimistic. You should approach this subject with a whole heart. This is the subject, law and legal profession, probably the brightest profession, most useful profession, most admired profession. But you are respected for what you are. Therefore, if you want to get fascinated by law and legal profession, you should prepare yourself for the best of it. You are now at the entry point. What you have learned already will serve as a basic structure for you to build your edifice or structure of profession, legal profession. So there is a saying that you should give full to this profession. Then this profession will give back full. Most of you or all of you or many of you might have heard a Sanskrit sloga, Purnamada Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyade Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyade. That is apt and applicable in study of law. When I discuss ideas, my ideas or ideas I have gathered with you, that is transferred to you in its perfect content. Purnamada Purnamidam. And what remains with me is also the perfect thing. It is like taking light from the flame of a lamp. So there is a saying that law is a jealous mistress. She will never tolerate the presence of another. No mistress will tolerate the presence of another mistress in the house. Law is a jealous mistress. Why it is said like that? You have to give your whole to law. You have to be perfect. And you should not have any other avocation, digression, deviation, distraction while you deal with, while you study, while you practice, while you profess law. That is the idea behind this adage. Law is a jealous mistress. She will never tolerate the presence of another. That is why, see, it doesn't matter when you simply acquire a law degree. There is no scientific or technological way in which you will automatically become a big lawyer, good lawyer, efficient lawyer. The fact that you take a law degree is a thing of passing an examination from a university and getting a certificate. But if you want to be a genuine lawyer, a real lawyer, a practicing lawyer, a perfect good lawyer, excellent lawyer, you have to give your full attention, time, resources, energy, your life to it. Then that is what law demands. Very, very eminent lawyers, when they deviate a little bit, they lose track. We have number of political leaders, ministers, MPs, MLAs, who are also lawyers, who are now spending most of their time in politics or other avocation, but they cannot give justice to law. There may be exceptions. The big names which you hear in the profession throughout India, who are politicians as well as lawyers, But they have reached a stage. They have reached a stage, and after that only they took a dip in politics. Because why I say that you should give all your might, all your attention? Because I will mention two words before you. One is lawman. We are all lawmen. A law student is a lawyer. A law teacher is a lawyer. A judge is a lawyer. A law book writer or publisher after a writer is a lawyer. And a lawman who knows about law, who is instructed in law, who is a knowledgeable person in law, is a lawman. The opposite of it is layman. Layman. Lawman and layman. We are standing between these two sectors, a lawman and a layman. Now, students, you are all young, fresh, enthusiastic youngsters coming from various family backgrounds, but you have reached here just like several rivulets reach a river, and like several branches of a river joining a river. Now you have joined the river of law. And the river of law, where does the river of law take you? Once you enter the river of law from your tributary, where does every river go? Or where do all rivers reach? The lawmen, you are lawmen, laymen are watching it. Laymen do not get an opportunity to swim in this stream, this river. All rivers, all branches of rivers reach the river. And the river reaches where? The ocean. The ocean. So now you are on your way to ocean. And the river, which is flowing within the portals of Hindustan Institute of Technology, will take you to the ocean, which in law we called jurisprudence. So musical a word, jurisprudence. It's a cadence of the word, jurisprudence. In law, you study only one subject. That is jurisprudence. And this river takes you to the high sea of law called jurisprudence. And in the sea, what do you get? There will be currents, cross currents, undercurrents, waves, tsunamis. You get everything there. So that is jurisprudence. So that is the difference between a lawman and a layman. If you are asked what is the difference between a lawyer and an ordinary man, you can answer in one word, jurisprudence. One knows jurisprudence and the other does not know jurisprudence. He may know a little bit of law. Every common man or every ordinary person also may be knowing some law or other. We are not discounting that. But systematic study of law, disciplined study of law. That is why Lord Denning in his book Discipline of Law gives a lot of advice to the youngsters, to students, to young lawyers. So this is the difference between the lawyer and the layman, jurisprudence. I will tell you an example. Suppose I sing a song now, sung by our famous singers like Chambai Vaidyanath Bhagavatar or Shriman Yeshudas or S.P. Balasubramaniam or some celebrated singers. If I sing that song, all of you will laugh. All of you will laugh at the hopeless performance which I show before you. When the same song is sung by S.P. Balasubramaniam or Yeshudas or Lata Mangeshkar or anybody for that matter, you enjoy it, you appreciate it, you understand it, you admire it, you adore it. That is the difference. I have not learned music. That is why I cannot sing that song correctly. I could have performed it like Yeshudas or S.P. Balasubramaniam had I learned music. Had I learned the swaras, ragas, talas in a systematic manner. Had I acquired. Since I am not expert or adept in this science of music, philosophy of music, I cannot be a good musician to earn the admiration of all listeners. That is the case of jurisprudence also. The difference between a lawyer and a layman is jurisprudence. Jurisprudence is the music of law. Jurisprudence is the music of law, and you can sing any song. You can practice any branch of law. You can understand and explain any provision of law if you are sound in jurisprudence. That is why I said that jurisprudence is the music of law. If you learn this music, you can practice, you can sing any raga, tala, swara, any branch of law. That is what I recommend to you. That is what I want to all of you to break the ground today, that we will love this subject. Probably in law, legal education, the most lovable subject is jurisprudence. Most attractive subject, most resourceful subject is jurisprudence. And a lawyer becomes empowered when he studies jurisprudence. How does he study jurisprudence? It is not directly. It is indirectly, constructively, vicariously. Jurisprudence enters you into your mental makeup. Because when you study law of crimes, law of contracts, law of limitation, law of property, law of intellectual property, law of immovable property, law of trust, various laws are there. Criminal laws are there. Law of crimes, Indian Penal Code, major criminal acts, minor criminal acts. Lot of branches are there. But when you study all of these or every branch of law, when you study every piece of legislation, you will be acquiring, you will be accumulating, you will be getting more and more sound in jurisprudence. That is why I said that you will be unknowingly learning, training in jurisprudence. Every teacher who comes to teach you a particular subject, for example, law of contract, that teacher would tell you something about contract, something about law of contract, something about the doctrines of contract, principles of contract, theories of contract. That is jurisprudence. And every teacher contributes to your understanding of jurisprudence. Every teacher contributes to your enrichment of jurisprudence. So, all that you require is to approach this subject with a fair mind, open mind, clear mind, and a clean mind. So there you may get 1/4 from your teachers, 1/4 from your books, 1/4 yourself on your own, and 1/4 in gradually in due course. So teachers are catalysts. They do the work of a catalyst in a chemical reaction. And all depends upon your mind. You should be positive. You should be caring and loving. And for this, I don't ask you to study 24 hours law. I don't ask you to avoid all other things and concentrate on this. But I do strongly request you, advise you, if I can advise you, to manage your time correctly. It is a question of management of time for us to get stronger and stronger in jurisprudence. You will be distributing your time so scientifically, rationally, reasonably, and you will be gathering your points, your understanding, your knowledge. That is why I said all of you are youngsters, all of you are freshers, all of you come from respectable, strong family background, and what you have to do is to learn the swimming in the river first, and then when you reach the ocean, you can swim in a better manner. See, for preparation of legal education, learning in law, nobody thinks that you are all authorities of law. You are in the rudimentary stage. You are in the neonatal stage. And your neonatal stage is nourished and nurtured by your able teachers. But you are ready to receive it. Ready to receive it means, I will tell you, suppose your mother prepares a very delicious dish, and that is poured into a vessel which is rotten, which is rusted, which is not clean. What will happen to that delicious dish? That dish will also get spoiled. Our mind must be clear, prepared. Then when you get knowledge, that will be preserved. That will be preserved there. I refer to or bring to your notice, respectful notice, the writing of an English writer, E.M. Forster. E.M. Forster has written a famous novel, many of you might have heard of that, A Passage to India. A Passage to India is a classic. But what I admire E.M. Forster is not for this book, but while studying our postgraduate class in English literature, we had a book prescribed, written by E.M. Forster, The Aspects of Novel. Aspects of Novel. Why I mentioned that here now, in your midst, I remember a dynamic principle explained by E.M. Forster, which can be adopted in our life, in our professional life, in our daily life, especially when you are all scholars, especially when you are all intellectuals. Lawyers are intellectuals, and you are having an exercise in intellectual excellence, refinement in legal education. What did E.M. Forster say? 3 words I will take from E.M. Forster. One is curiosity. Curiosity. All of you are curious. When Dr. Manisar announced that such and such person is coming to have a lecture, many of you are curious what this gentleman is going to tell us. That is curiosity. Always anxious to know what happens Now, when you see a film filled with mysteries, you are always curious to know the story. When you read a judgment, you are curious to see the mind of the judge and what happens at the end. So curiosity is a quality with which human mind is propelled to concentrate for attention. So you are curious. Curiosity. But Foster says that curiosity is good for receiving knowledge. See, you get information. Information will be converted into knowledge by you. That is why when the same point is discussed, different students understand it differently. And curiosity fills your mind, your understanding, your attention with knowledge. Then Foster says two other words, memory and intelligence. So, with curiosity you gather information and knowledge and you keep it, and you should have the intelligence and memory. Your memory must be a storehouse of, treasure house of knowledge. Information which has been converted into knowledge. A teacher comes to you and tells you something about the legal system started in India in the modern period by the British East India Company from 1600 to 1947, how legal system developed in India, how in the province of Madras in 1639, Madrasipattanam, a Chowdhury court was there, then Mayor's court came there, then Admiralty court came, then other court of record came. So these are all information you get and you keep it in your memory. You keep it in your memory and it is not to be kept there as a fixed deposit. It is to be kept there for using as and when required. That is where you have to use your intelligence. So memory and intelligence. So this is the schooling which we get here. So for this you should be prepared. For this you should be prepared. You should have refined your faculties, qualities, senses, sensibility, sensitivity. Then you are okay. You just travel, you just enjoy, because there are your teachers to take care of you. More than that, there is you yourself to take care of you, provided you are curious initially, then memory and intelligence is used correctly. So that is why I say that all of you have come to this profession, all of you have come to this best profession, noblest of all professions. I can say that there is no other profession which has been admired, which has been accepted, accorded with such dignified acceptance in human civilization. Lawyers. So this is this, and if you want to be proud of being a lawyer, we have to be every inch a lawyer. Every inch a lawyer, you become a lawyer when you get schooling in jurisprudence. For getting a good schooling in jurisprudence, you should be clear. You should have clarity of understanding. I will bring to you an example, an instance. A 12-year-old boy in the United States of America wrote a letter to the Chief Justice of the American Supreme Court, Mr. Justice Felix Frankfurter, because he wanted to study law. He was a 12-year-old boy, still doing his school classes. When he thought that to whom shall I seek advice for studying law, naturally the best person in the country would be the Chief Justice or a judge of the Supreme Court. And he wrote a letter to the judge, Justice Felix Frankfurter. And had it been in some other country or in some other places or in our country, if you write a letter to a judge, a school child writing a letter to a judge of the High Court or Supreme Court, they may ask you, advise you very politely to approach some good law schools, National Law School or some other law school, or they will ask if the boy is writing from Chennai, they will ask you go and meet Dr. V.L. Mani Saab and you can have a schooling in law. But Justice Felix Frankfurter, he was 71 years old when he wrote this letter, when he got this letter. And this boy was 12 years old. And his name was Paul Clausen. Paul Clausen. Paul Clausen Jr. He was from Alexandria in Virginia. And he asked the judge, what shall I do when I join law or before I join law? Because you are taking a dip. You are taking a baptism when you start learning law. You are to be baptized. How you are going to, what should I do? See, I will read one sentence from that letter, reply written by Justice Felix Frankfurter to Paul Clausen. My dear Paul, see, the judge of the Supreme Court is responding to a letter by a 12-year-old boy. No one, my dear Paul, no one can be a truly competent lawyer unless he is a cultivated man. Cultivated man. If I were you, I would forget about any technical preparation for the law. The best way to prepare for the law is to be a well-read person. Thus alone can one acquire the capacity to use the English language on paper and in speech, and with the habits of clear thinking which only a truly liberal education can give. No less important for a lawyer is the cultivation of the imaginative faculties by reading poetry, seeing great paintings in the originals or in the easily available reproductions, and listening to great music. Stock your mind with the deposit of much good reading and widen and deepen your feelings by experiencing vicariously as much as possible the wonderful mysteries of the universe. See, the last words you keep in mind, even if you forget all what I have read so far, you listen to the next 4 or 5 words. Vicariously as much as possible the wonderful mysteries of the universe, and forget about your future career. Forget about worrying about your future career. Your future career will be strong with you. This is Frankfurter's advice. You read as beginners in study of law, study of jurisprudence, law course. All undergraduate law students can be called beginners in law. Till you acquire the qualification to practice, you are beginners in law. And if the word is stretched to a reasonable level, even we are all beginners of law even today. In studying law, it is such a vast subject. And this procedural law like civil procedure code and criminal procedure code, evidence, limitation, these branches you master by the time you will cross 60. And this is law. And for undertaking such a serious tour, expedition, excavation, exploration in your life, you should be prepared. You should be mentally prepared, physically prepared also. That is why Felix Frankfurter advises, that can be an advice for all of us. While joining law, make yourself cultivated. You keep your faculties of curiosity ripe, and you keep your faculties of intelligence and memory ripe. Be a cultivated man. What does it mean, cultivated man? So, he is asking you to be a cultivated person. So, you can read good books. This is the time when you can read generally good books on law, not only on law. You can read classics. You can read Indian classics, foreign classics, American classics, British classics. You can enjoy good films. Films are a movie which is having an educative message. So you are beginning, cultivated persons. See, Frankfurter advises, you read, you watch, you enjoy. As William Wordsworth said, good poetry is felt in the heart and left along the blood. Blood vessels carry the goodness of that poet. Like that in jurisprudence, if you fall in love with jurisprudence, she will never forgive, you will never defeat you or forget you. So, fall in love. It is a question of falling in love. So, love at first sight. Whoever loved has not loved at first sight. So, by this time you might have fallen in love with jurisprudence. And I think that jurisprudence will take care of you. You have a quotation from Francis Bacon, who was Chief Justice of England. Reading makes a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. By the word cultivation, Felix Frankfurter might have thought of this process, this drilling by you. Reading, writing, and conferencing. What is conferencing? Discussion, debate. Reading makes a full man. Conference a ready man. You should be ready-witted. If only you read and fill your understanding to the brim, you will be able to answer correctly the debates, questions. So, reading makes a full man, conference a ready man, writing an exact man. Exact man. When you write something, it should be exact. When you write answers in your examination, you get a question, write an essay on privity of contract, or write an essay on the beginning of judicial institutions in India during the British period, or you write an essay on constitutional law. You may be knowing so many things, but when you put it down, write it down, when you write down, you will be reducing it to writing. For that, you should be exact. Exactitude should be there. That is what Bacon says, that you can also adopt. You read and read profusely, extensively, and you read whatever good books, good material you get. Reading makes a full man, and you discuss it with your students, with your teachers, with your community, makes you a ready man, and you write things, and that will make you an exact person. So this is what Frankfurter also said. And all great men who were lawyers and subsequently became statesmen, they also practiced high principles in their lives. Practicing high principles in life is one thing, and qualified to practice high principles and big principles in life is another. That is what I request you, to be qualified. You have to be qualified too, and that qualified is the training you get in this law school. See, Mahatma Gandhi was a lawyer. Mahatma Gandhi learned law in England, And from England, Mahatma Gandhi came here for a small time and then he went to South Africa. He practiced law in South Africa for about 25 years, a substantial period. And Gandhiji was disheartened by the perils and evils of legal profession. And there is a small book written by Mahatma Gandhi, The Law and Lawyers. Some of the law schools had prepared that for pre-law classes. Mahatma Gandhi's book, The Law and Lawyers. Gandhiji used to write a lot of legal material in his journals like Young India, Navjivan and Harijan. And those articles were compiled and this book was published. And Gandhiji lost faith in the legal system while in South Africa because the tactics played by lawyers, the attitude of judges, the attitude of administrators, the attitude of prosecutors. Gandhiji was a man nurtured in the qualities of truth. Truth is God, God is truth. The both are inconvertible. That is what Gandhiji said. If at all you cannot practice up to the level of Gandhiji's standard, you can be intellectually honest while practicing as lawyers. That intellectual honesty which Gandhiji advocated, everyone can practice. I will read one sentence of Mahatma Gandhi. He maintained that throughout his career at the bar, he never once departed from truth and honesty. Then, quote, "The duty of a lawyer is always to place before the judges and to help them to arrive at the truth, never to prove the guilty as innocent." See, judging is to be done by the judge. Your duty is to place things before the judge with evidence, with interpretation, with facts, correct facts, true facts. But that principle remains theory, we know. In practice, that is why that may be one reason Mahatma Gandhi left the profession also. But he reached a still worse place, politics. And Gandhiji, for a few days back, it was Gandhiji's Jayanti celebration day, October 2nd. Gandhiji wrote in Young India, "I shall work for an India in which the poorest shall feel that it is their country, in the making of which they have an active part. In such an India, there is no room for the curse of untouchability and the curse of intoxicating drinks. Women shall have equal right with men. This is the India of my dreams." How true it is. He is an intelligent man. Gandhiji was so intelligent, wise. He added that last sentence, "This is the India of my dreams." That dream remains a dream even today in India, we know. After 70 years, what happens in Hathras, UP, what happens in various other places in India, women shall be equal to men. No room for untouchability. So this is what we have to do. It is your mission. It is my mission, being lawyers. Lawyers are warriors. Lawyers are warriors of peace and tranquility in society. Lawyers are warriors of fighters for freedom, fighters for liberty. Gandhiji made one suggestion, one opinion. That is not the whole. Even Gandhiji will not say this is the whole. You cannot take one brick out of a mansion and then assess the mansion. You cannot assess jurisprudence, you cannot assess legal profession by quoting one opinion of Mahatma Gandhi. This is so complex, multi-sided. It has got kaleidoscopic characters, legal profession, law, jurisprudence. So Gandhiji said one thing, those who can practice it well and good. But law is more than that. Law is more than that, that is why we study jurisprudence. A German jurist called Wurzel, W-U-R-T-Z-E-L, Wurzel, he made a comment. You can get reference of Wurzel in a book by Dias, A-M-W, Dias. The name of the book itself is just Jurisprudence. Jurisprudence by Dias. It is a standard book, internationally standard book, where he quotes it. What does Wurzel say about jurisprudence? Jurisprudence is as big as law. It is not finished there. Put a hyphen. Wurzel puts a hyphen there. Jurisprudence is as big as law. Put a hyphen, then bigger. It is bigger than law. It is broader than law. It is many more things other than law. Jurisprudence teaches you. So when I say that in law school, what you study is jurisprudence. Every day you are studying jurisprudence. Every hour when you deal with a topic in law, you are dealing it from a jurisprudential viewpoint. You are breathing in and out of jurisprudence. You are living a life of jurisprudence while you practice law, while you study law, while you learn law. That is the difference. That is how lawyers become warriors. When you go for SSB interview, Service Selection Board interview for becoming officers of the Army, Navy or Air Force, 5 days in the SSB interview, every syllable of your health and your intelligence and your capabilities will be put under the dissection microscope of the test conducted there. So then they select you. Whether you are selected or rejected will be considered on that. Not only brain but brawn also. There should be a happy combination. So in law also, this training goes on. Every day you are training. Every day you are being trained. This training process go on. Training process is a formal process as well as an informal process. That is how lawyers become lawyers. That is why lawyers are most respectable in the society, if you are behaving in a respectable manner. If you are fair to the profession, if you are fair to your clients, if you are fair to your opponents, if you are fair to the court judges, that is what you learn in law school. In Henry VI, Act 2nd, William Shakespeare there's a quotation from Shakespeare quoted always in context and out of context by speakers, judges, lawyers, law teachers. Shakespeare says, one of the characters in Shakespeare's play, Henry VI, says, let us kill all lawyers. Let us kill all lawyers. One judge in a speech said that, see, even Shakespeare has said that, let us kill all lawyers. As if Shakespeare was speaking against lawyers. And that lady judge, it was a lady judge in Delhi High Court, addressing a function. Unfortunately, I was sitting at the forefront with some of my friends. After her speech, she wanted the audience to respond to her speech. Then I stood up and asked, ma'am, you said that Shakespeare said, let us kill all lawyers. Yes, Shakespeare said to kill all lawyers. I said, you know, what is the context in which Shakespeare said that? It was an encomium given to lawyers. It was an appreciation given to lawyers. It is the villain of the story who says that let us kill all lawyers. And it is a villain who wants to capture power by killing the king. He says that let us kill all lawyers, because he believed that if a single lawyer was alive, he would be taken to the books, he would be taken to law. So that is the admiration of lawyers. Let us kill all lawyers means if a single lawyer is alive, illegality will not be there, because lawyers are not irrational beings. See, when you are young children, very tender children now for me, and your professors compared in age. In 1975, the Prime Minister of India was a lady, Prime Minister Mrs. Indira Gandhi. She declared emergency for her power to be more strengthened, national emergency. And during the national emergency, it was there for about 18 months, 19 months. Mrs. Gandhi had to face the stiffest opposition from the lawyer community in India. It was a second freedom struggle, we can say. And emergency, Mrs. Gandhi had a headache. Mrs. Gandhi amended the Constitution 39th Amendment. And that was challenged before the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court quashed the amendment, saying that this is against the rule of law. So this is lawyer. If lawyers are strong, society will be strong. If lawyers are strong, the citizens will be safe. See, Indian Constitution, we will discuss about that, refer about that. Indian Constitution, a written Constitution, it does not mention any of the professions except law. The only profession mentioned in the Indian Constitution is law, lawyer's profession. No doctor, no engineer, no chartered accountant, nobody. The Constituent Assembly draft, the Constitution draft is, the Constitution has accepted the dignity of this profession. You read Article 22 of the Constitution, where it is stated that it is a fundamental right of every person to choose a lawyer of his choice. There is no fundamental right to choose a doctor, an engineer, a chartered accountant, a teacher. But you have the fundamental right to choose a lawyer of your choice. So this is law. This is lawyer. This is what you are entering this field. That is why I say that you are entering a very sunny, very brilliant, very illuminating, very constructive area. These are some of the general, fundamental, preliminary, rudimentary observations which I would like to make with you. Now, we mentioned about Felix Frankfurter, we mentioned Mahatma Gandhi, but there are lawyers who are famous lawyers who had become lawyers even without a law graduation, qualification, not even having formal education. You go to the court, it is not today, it is 100 years back or 200 years back. You go to the court, listen to the proceedings there, you attend some lawyer's office, and then you continuously do like that, and the lawyers association or bar association gives you a license to practice law without any formal degree. Such lawyers are also there. Such lawyers were also there. Famous lawyers. They became famous not only as lawyers but as statesmen, rulers also. The name which I want to bring to your midst is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the President of the United States of America. You know the famous Gettysburg speech of Abraham Lincoln, where he defends democracy. He says, spontaneously, a government of the people, for the people, by the people, shall not perish on this earth. Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer, but he never had formal education. And Abraham Lincoln, one biographer has said that Abraham Lincoln was a bad lawyer. Where's lawyer? He used to do all sorts of unusual practices. But he is remembered not only as a president of one of the presidents of America, but as a lawyer, a hardworking lawyer. A hardworking lawyer who found his way to the White House by sheer hard work. So my suggestion is that you are young now, you will be finding your way to various courts, various positions, various positions, if you are true to law, if you are true to yourself. Now, I will pass on to proper law, proper things in law, in legal education for a few minutes now, since we have about 1 more hour, and I think that we will have a little time for interaction also. And here I would like to pause and suggest that if anybody is interested in interacting on the basis of what I have discussed so far, well and good. Now itself we can do it. After that I can continue my submissions. Whichever way you decide, I think Dr. V.L. Mani Saab or can take a decision on that.